Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Brightworks. A lot of the times I throw around the word pro when I'm talking about these high true scale players, but you would be hard-pressed to find people any higher on the skill ceiling. Today, we've got some absolute champions for you going head-to-head in a clash of the Titans. Spawning on the western side, the western hemisphere. It's not how that works at all. Spawning on the western side, representing our red team, we have Pro Randy, or maybe it's Pro Andy. Called him Andy earlier, I'm not sure. Pro Randy, going to be our red Cortex commander, going to be commanding the left half of the map here, or at least trying their very best to. Spawning on the eastern side, dressed in blue, Cortex as well, and ready to show us what he's got. It's Raghna. You all know Raghna. Raghna, one of the absolute top Gs, one of the very best in the game. A moderator, a well-renowned player, a leader, a lover, maybe? No? Wrong thing? Might be getting confused here. Too excited going into these games here, but I am thrilled to see what these players bring out for us because it's going to be some good stuff. So I notice immediately bot labs for both players, and the timing is essentially the same. You could tell these guys have sparred before, just how close everything is. We're up to, in case anyone's curious about the build orders, we're doing 3 mechs, windmills. I believe it was 4 windmill and a bot lab. Might have been 3 windmill and a bot lab. And then basically the same exact thing for Raghna over here, who did the same story. Now, Randy has gone for the units right out the gate, 2 grunts, as a matter of fact, whereas Raghna has gone for the constructor right out the gate, 2 constructors, actually. Oh, it might be 3 even. But yeah, certainly working on getting that eco expansion sooner, as opposed to the grunts, but it's not like the eco isn't on the behind here for Randy. Getting these little constructors out on the field and claiming metal extractors is going to be important because on this map, I believe it's called Heartbreak Hill version 4. On this map, claiming territory is the most important thing because all of the metal nodes are worth the exact same amount. So what that means is controlling areas of the map is more important than controlling, or I guess I should say controlling vast swaths of the map is more important than controlling specific, very important points. Anyways, that note aside, it looks like Randy has moved a grunt across. This is really just a scout. We're just taking a look around the map, but it will be intercepted, and it will immediately back off, trying to spare this grunt's life. It will win its fight, and so it will live to report. And once again, we're going to pull this grunt all the way back. You can see the mark of these pros is they spare every single unit, milk the absolute maximum potential out of every single one of these wherever they can. And you know, for what it's worth, they crush players. So there's clearly something to learn here. Clearly, sound like an old man now. We've got the constructors moving around here. We are working on that economy. Meanwhile, scouts headed around the map. Let's see what Raghna sees. Currently, no scouting understanding of where Randy is, although I have a feeling he kind of intuitively gets that Randy's got to be somewhere around here. Based on the fact that we haven't seen anything in the southern hemisphere yet, we probably understand. Randy probably, or Raghna rather, probably understands that Randy is going to be sort of right around in this area. Finally spots the grunt, and that probably confirms it for him. Kind of the start of these games starts out with these players reaching out and sort of feeling in the darkness for each other. I know you can't see me, but you know, I'm like reaching my hands out towards my monitor. That's kind of how I imagine these guys. They're just feeling their way through the darkness to try and find each other, and then as soon as they bump into each other, the fists start swinging. The grunts are out in tremendous number now, and you can see that the commanders are building plenty of eco to support all this. Wind speed has died down to 3, so it's completely abysmal right now. Both players, their entire energy economy has just tanked, and so you can see both of them here going for those solar panels to try and remedy that at least a little bit, alleviate that power from the wind turbines. Very tricky to balance. These wind turbines are so much more efficient that it's worth it to go for them, but also they can definitely screw you over if the wind stays low and you have no alternative power source, that is. Grunt's thinking about trying to perform some sort of a run by here. We're probably looking for any vulnerable metal extractors. We're looking for any sort of exposed weak points here, but I doubt you're going to find it. Raghna very, very good at locking down controlled areas, so setting up these light laser turret walls, areas that are controlled against run-bys, basically. So you have to send more than just the base units. You have to send a couple, 4, 5, 6 units in order to do anything, and even then, you're still going to trade relatively inefficiently. Economies are highlighted up here in the top right-hand corner. I know it's a little bit small up there, but we can see that currently Raghna is sitting at a cool 17 metal per second, but Randy is all the way up to 21. Energy income, basically the same, more or less. Both of them very heavily relying on that wind power, and so when it drops, we see both of their energy economies tank, plummet, fall, and diminish down to basically nothing. Grunts getting in a little scuffle here, but these grunts have made it past, and they are going to definitely get one of these metal extractors. The question is whether they will get both. We're trying our very best. Looks like we will only get one for today, as the rest of these grunts will probably be mopped up. Meanwhile, there was a little bit of aggression I missed up north here. It looks like a run-by of grunts has snuck into Randy's base and has taken down some windmills here, some wind turbines. Also a metal extractor. This lone grunt was not dealt with, and so it will be able to snipe a few more wind turbines as well as a metal extractor before finally getting taken care of. That's the right words. So jumbled up, so excited to cast these. It's rare that you get to watch the Legends play live. That's right, this is a live game. This is not a this is no replay involved. This is all the glory involved. If there's a pause, we're gonna have to sit here and bear with it. Only you won't. I'll just cut it out. But yeah, we're doing it live, folks, as they say. Setting up these light laser turret walls, always a great idea. Circulate the, cut off, rather, the choke points so that things can't circulate. That's what I'm trying to say. Basically, just making sure that none of these grunts are going to be able to push through on their own. They're going to need a little contingents if they want to get anything done. The laser fire is so satisfying. Flashing each other with their little laser rifles, trying to blow through each other's armor. Very, very rad. We did attempt a run-by up here. Raghna, defended a run-by from Randy up here. I'm all self-conscious now. I'm trying to improve. Always improving. Happy to hear you guys' feedback. Speaking of feedback, let me know what you think about these 1v1s. It's a little bit out of my comfort zone. Usually I leave the 1v1s to Barcast TV, another Beyond All Reasons content creator. He does a lot more 1v1s and is also a lot better at playing 1v1 in general, so a little more license to commentate. But I certainly couldn't help myself. You guys like the other 1v1 I did with Dolphy, I believe, was one of the stars in that one. I'm trying to remember the other person, but I can't at the moment. You'll just have to go check that one out for yourselves in the Barcasts playlist. Feel free. But yeah, let me know what you think of the 1v1s versus the 8v8s. What do you play? Always happy to hear from you guys. I've said this before, but every time somebody comments, I get a little notification. Hits my brain with a little bit of dopamine, and I love it. We're getting into those advanced solar panels. They're nice. They get you that consistent energy output you need to start really cranking out units at a pace. But I gotta say, things are looking a lot more steady here for Raghna than they are for Randy. That being said, a lot of these metal extractors do have exploiters on them, the armed metal extractors for the Cortex faction. So they are gonna be difficult to break. They really do have a lot of health, especially for T1. As far as T1 defenses go, they're meant to take a blast, and they can deal one out too. So you know, the position looks a lot better for Raghna, but maybe it's just my sense of my sense of aesthetics, the way that all of these are set up around choke points. It just looks very military, very industrial. I love to see it. We are getting towards something like a split map, though, eventually here. Raghna, you can see, with only 22 metal per second, whereas Randy is holding on to a sharp 29. Jumped up to 40 there for a second. Must have been reclaiming. Yeah, here's the bot right here. Yeah, jumping up and down here, but overall still maintaining a slight economic advantage. So the economic advantage he has is balanced against the amount of damage that Raghna has been able to do. I would still say this is probably a pretty even game. Whoops, there we go. Having a little bit of connection issues here. I doubt these guys are playing on a US server, so bear with me as we take a look through here. This is the cost of getting to witness the awesome power live in action. The live studio tour. Anybody ever been to the Universal Studios studio tour? I've been on that a few times. It's really cool. Not sure why that's on my mind right now, but while these armies are just probing and scanning and trying to find a weakness, I figure we can talk about it. They've got this really awesome Jaws exhibit, the old mechanical jaw shark. They've also got the oh, what is it called? It's King Kong. It's the one where he fights the dinosaurs. You can tell when a movie series has ran out of originality because they just have the main character deal with dinosaurs. Transformers, King Kong, Adam Driver in that movie 49 or 45 or whatever it was, the dinosaur movie. That's just Star Wars version. Yeah, I rest my case. Bombers have been produced in the meantime while I was rambling on. Randy threw up an air lab, must have taken it down because I don't see it anywhere around now. But we are now onto a vehicle lab, and we are going to be pumping out those tanks. The bombers are spotted here, so that's very nice. It's going to give Raghna, at the very least, a little bit of time to react. We do have some anti-air turrets that were put up, and we're going to keep adding more. These bombers are headed right for the eco centers here, and they might be able to get a nice little hit. Bombs do drop, and the wind turbines are at risk. Very nice. Hard to expect much more out of a bombing run here with these guys this good. Wow, look at him just painting those wind turbines. Picasso Raghna, as he was rumored to be called. Well, not a great engagement there for Raghna, as Randy does clean up a couple of these grunts over here. On the skill level of these players here, you have to start thinking in terms of like every individual unit being worth some value, whether it's now or later. This was a great pick by Raghna. Did manage to shut down 3 metal extractors as well as the converter, or the constructor rather, who was in charge of building all of them. More metal extractors going down. Yeah, Raghna is really keeping the pressure high. Suddenly snagging a tremendous economic lead, 43 to 31. But I don't think he's done there. We're still trying to take engagements all over the map. It's a lot of grunts right here, but certainly if we came in from the right angle, we could take a favorable engagement and get a little bit of work done. We do have this armed metal extractor here that we can also fall back to, should we need it, and we're throwing up more laser turrets as well. Raghna is throwing up more laser turrets. Armed exploiter, very tough. It can soak up a whole lot of hits, and so it's a great thing to fall back to because it really is a solid line of defense, making this entire area very difficult for Randy to push into. Meanwhile, the medium tanks, the brutes, have started rolling forward here. Those are the Cortex medium tank, and they hit like a truck, especially, again, I guess they hit like a tank is probably more accurate. Especially against the T1 stuff. They do a huge amount of damage. They have a huge pool of health. They're just all around a very, very powerful unit, and they're marching on. A lot of these are very healthy here. Most of them above 90% health, with the one senior general leading the charge here. Meanwhile, a bunch of these grunts have been sacrificed, I suppose. They've been given to Randy in order to take down a single laser turret, I guess. Not an ideal trade whatsoever. We are onto the era of the medium tank, though, as Raghna gets a couple of his own out as well. Meanwhile, the aggression up north has concluded with a total victory for Randy, as the medium tanks sweep through the eco centers up there. Medium tanks trying to push forward here, but there is actually some light laser turrets to fend them off. That's quite nice. Raghna probably threw those up expecting to deal with grunts, but dealing with medium tanks is a little bit harder. You're going to need something that hits a little bit harder. You're going to need either a heavy laser turret or maybe quite a few twin guards would maybe do the trick. Either way, it's going to be tricky. Now this I do like to see. Randy is getting a couple of those res bots out, still using the T1 bot lab to his absolute disposal, making sure to get the most value out. And for him, what that means is resurrecting as many of these units as possible. I love to see it because it's just one less unit you have to produce out of your bot lab. This is also great. We can resurrect the defenses that went down, and then suddenly you've built a turret there again. And that's very powerful. Very, very powerful. Medium tanks here are used to break this line, and when you crack these lines like this, it allows you to slip units through. And so I imagine we're probably going to see some grunts redirected in that line here, this attack path, over in this direction, kind of over, down, and around. I imagine that's kind of the idea that we have here. As long as we keep these paths open, there's just more angles to attack Raghna with. This is kind of weird to say, but it just popped into my head. But whenever I see these battles between these people that are just so good at this game, like tons and tons of experience and the skill to play these games at high APM and thoughtfully, strategically, that sort of thing, it almost looks like bots. Like it almost looks like the bots in the sense that the bots always have something going on. There's always a movement going on everywhere. There's always armies being controlled. Everything is microed all the time. It's just crazy how much micro you really can do when you're this good at the game and this familiar with the control set that you're, it's just second nature to these guys to wave armies around as if it were nothing. Medium tanks do get jumped on by a large army of grunts. They do find a couple of armed exploiters. Are we going to get them? Oh, it's close. Apologize once again for the buffering. We'll just have to live with me through that. They will get one of the armed exploiters here, but they will eventually all be shut down. The medium tanks, that is, will all be shut down by the red forces here. Red forces. Not Air Force Ones, but Army forces. We've got more medium tanks clashing here, and this is never a good position to find yourself in, where you're the bottom of the hill that the tanks are shooting down on. I don't think anybody ever was happy to be that guy. Couple of grunts trying to run through on the northern side here. There is this armed exploiter, and so it will do good work to stall a lot of these grunts. It pulls their attention away at the very least, which is also very nice. But Raghna did allocate enough units to make this completely lethal, and so at least for the time being, these grunts will exert control over this northern segment once more. At the very least, they will deny Randy control of it, which is really all we can hope for. All Raghna can hope for. Cheeky little air lab has been built by Raghna, and we are pumping out shuriken in mass here. We're gonna try and probably paralyze some of these tanks. I imagine that's kind of the highest value, most paralyzable unit. As soon as you get these paralyzed, the half of the tank's usefulness is its mobility, right? And so if you can paralyze them, you shut down the army, and suddenly that army is much less valuable, even though it's still massive. Double-pronged aggression here as Randy sweeps a couple of grunts through some light tower defense in the southern half of the map, but the shuriken are moving in. They hit the battlefield and immediately start working on some of these tanks. They're paralyzing whatever they can. Every tank they stun is a dead tank. A down tank is a dead tank, as they say in World of Tanks. I don't know, I never read the book. But yeah, these tanks are not looking so hot. This was a fairly dominative lead here for Randy that suddenly turned into a rather unfortunate trade, a rather unfortunately even trade here for Raghna. I do like that we have these res bots here, and they're trying to repair everything, basically keep all of this alive, but slowly they are dying to a lot of these tanks that are firing at them. That being said, the shuriken are putting in work, but it's barely not enough. Finally, some grunts hit the battlefield as well, and it's a little bit too little too late. Yeah, I have to say, that aggression led to a whole lot more downed blue tanks than downed red ones. I am really impressed. That defender's advantage is tremendous. When you have units coming out of your factory closer to home, you have the advantage in the sense that your reinforcements hit the field a whole lot faster, so you can build up those fronts a lot quicker as well. Bombers were produced by Raghna, it's worth mentioning. Hopefully we see those used to tremendous effect. You never know. They're headed up north here, probably hoping to snag maybe these constructors or some metal extractors or something of the like. Yeah, it looks like we're just going to dump our bombs all over. We don't actually manage to kill anything, but that's okay. These blue bombers continue their harassment. They do get a constructor that's very nice to see. Oh, and the scout finds that there is no anti-air in the windmill farms back here. This is going to be devastating. Raghna placing the bombs perfectly, finding the one weakness in the armor, this northern section that Raghna has continued to harass. You know, we're punching Randy in the liver here. we're making sure that Randy's day is as bad as possible, as about half of the wind turbine economy has just been completely depleted. I wouldn't be surprised if that suddenly becomes all of it here, as more bombing runs are pursued, are dropped, are delivered. Bombers at this point are taking constant fire from these thistles, which does mean that eventually they will go down, but not before at the very least 1 or 2 more final bombing runs. There they go, but they did great work. That is the energy for Randy. Now less than half of the energy production of Raghna, as you can see in the top right-hand corner, despite Randy having far more metal production at 40, 50-ish, 50 to 60, depending on reclaim at the current moment. More metal, less energy. It's a difficult thing to balance. We are going up to a T2 lab. That's quite impressive. A lot of these games don't even make it that far, but I shouldn't have expected any less from these pros. We do have tanks pushing through here. Oh yeah. I've got my lemonade with me. You know it's a serious cast when I whip out the lemonade. I don't know if I've ever shared with you guys my deep and passionate fondness for lemonade. There is no drink sweeter on a warm summer's night than a crisp, cool glass of lemonade. Grunt run by here, but the shurikens are helpful to stop this in its tracks. Although that light laser turret was damn close to falling there. Little fires all over the place to constantly be putting out, and that is really the challenge here. Before this match was even played, we were all hanging out with Raghna and doing some 1v1s and stuff like that, and I played a couple myself, and man, this game is stressful. When it's just you, when you don't have teammates out there on the battlefield that you can blame for all the mistakes, this game gets real stressful. Oh, looks like we weren't aware, Raghna wasn't aware of the northern section already being claimed by Randy, and despite that really huge hit to the economy of Randy, there's still tons and tons of forces out on the field. Now, the reason the front lines are all collapsing is because we went up to that T2, right? So now we're going to have this T2 out. It'll be much more efficient in trading against these tanks, and we'll be able to more easily deal with some of these aggressions. We can see the Fiends burning away at these tanks, as now they're all going to be forced to retreat here. The grunts have no such fear instinct, though, as they are told to march, and march they shall as they head towards Raghna's southern back line. This is the first time that the Fiends have been seen. Well, they've been streaking across the battlefield now for a minute or two, but this is the first opportunity that Randy has to deal with them. And it's never a good first engagement with the Fiend. You're always playing with T1, unless you were prepared, in which case, good for you. You've done well, and you're probably pretty high up on the leaderboards, and I would love to cast your game sometime. So, you know, send me that email or join our Discord, or maybe message me in game. However you get in contact with me, let me know. I'd be happy to cast it, because I want to see it, and I'm sure everyone else here wants to as well. Eventually, those units were going to be shut down, or are shut down, is another correct way of saying that, as Raghna is now going to have to deal with just the spare tanks that were resurrected and are still threatening the borders. This is really where the advantage is, though. These constructors have walked all the way up north here. That's a bit odd. I wonder how that happened. A little bit of a glitch or a misclick there has somehow placed a placed an armed exploiter a little bit off of the metal patch, but surely not the end of the world. Meanwhile, a single Fiend has managed to somehow get into the backline here. Not sure exactly where that came from. Must have ran around up north here. These little hills right here are crossable by bots, so if a bot does walk up and over those, it does actually have a pretty easy access path to the economy center. So it's something to keep aware of if you're playing on this map. Meanwhile, Resbots doing good work here, patching back together a lot of these tanks. We're getting constructors back up. These constructors are really nice, actually. That does allow you to, once again, establish a claim on the front lines. A lot of grunts here, and it's always sad when you see those halos, because you know that those were yours at one point. And now you have to deal with them, right? It becomes a pain, but certainly the Fiends are more than happy to. Those little devils, they see a halo and they say, don't scare me. This is a lot of medium tanks. This is a tremendous amount of medium tanks. We're currently looking at 35 in total. 7,755 metal, all dumped into medium tanks right there. It's certainly an army that can do some damage. If they find Raghna's commander, which is actually kind of far forward here, this could be a whole lot of trouble. Yeah, Randy has the killing blow here. These units can definitely jump on top of this commander, which is just too far forward. There's not enough units left, and after all of this, the metal advantage is what won it out in the end, as Raghna has collapsed. Very nice. Very good game. Game 1. I believe this will be part of a series, so I guess we'll head on over to game number 2. Now this one, I was not expecting. They are going to be playing on a naval map, and man, do you know that I love my Navy. I am pretty stoked to see what these guys bring out for a Navy map here. This is going to be quite interesting. I believe we have the same lineup here. On the western side, we have Randy. Well, obviously it's the same lineup, but I just mean same sides for both players here. We have Randy on the west here. Southwest, I guess you should say. And we have Raghna in the northeast. Going for a 2 metal extractor, 3-4 windmill start. Sorry, adjusting myself in my seat. Got to sit up properly for this one. It is worth it. I think my microphone's boom arm has been slouching recently because it's starting to sag and I'm trying to lean into it, but then it slides me out of my chair. What am I talking about? Randy is already in the water, getting his feet wet as we build our 3rd metal extractor as well as a tidal generator. Tidal power's at 15. That's decent, if I remember correctly. Somebody made it. Excuse me. Somebody did a very, very detailed breakdown of exactly what energy sources were and weren't efficient at what speeds, namely the tidal and the wind power. And I remember that the threshold for where tidal power became better than basically anything else was 20. So I don't think 15 is particularly efficient. It's probably, my pro Randy is going for a couple of wind turbines on the shore rather than more tidal generators. Tidal generators are a constant source of energy, though. That's always something to take into account here. They're certainly more efficient than the wind turbines when the wind turbines are at 5. It's a sad day when you see the wind turbines at 5. Both players here in the water, however, I should mention that Randy is a Armada player this time. Going to be representing the right team with Armada this time. Best of wishes to Randy now, since since they've decided to switch over to the cool faction. No, both factions are pretty cool, and in fact, I've been playing a lot more Cortex. I've got a lot more respect for Cortex, and through my exploration of Cortex, I've also gained a lot of respect for the solar panel. Yeah, I was saying that I can respect it in its place at the bottom of the T1 energy producers tier list. Both players doing similar things here. We can see that eco expansion is pretty much the goal. We're starting to claim some of these underwater metal extractors wherever we can. Construction ships streaming out of both players' bases here. And of course, Randy is going to be going for a couple of those dolphins. Hard to resist. They're so cost efficient. 175 metal, 1500 energy for a pretty damaging little package, and they can shoot past each other. They've got a nice little collision. It's pretty great, as opposed to, say, for instance, I guess you would have to build a gunboat. Maybe that's the counterpart. Cortex doesn't really have a counterpart. It's not quite the same. The gunboat doesn't really feel the same. The frigate, or the Riptide, the assault frigate, is way bigger. It's not really there's not really a counterpart there. The skater and the gunboat are much more similar. However, the gunboat does not have an anti-air, I don't believe. So the skater is sort of like a dual-purpose ship, whereas the Cortex players have to build gunboats and they have to build herrings if they want to deal with air. Interesting little juxtapositions between these two factions here. Dolphin chasing down this enemy gunboat will sink it to the bottom of the ocean floor, meaning that that reclaim will be valuable in the future. More and more construction ships coming up here, more and more dolphins. Metal is going to be the king on this map, and currently we can see that Raghna is up to 25 metal per second, whereas Randy is only on 19. So that metal advantage becomes very exaggerated very quickly because metal is very topsy-turvy in these naval battles. So sooner rather than later, we're going to need to see a little bit more metal coming out of Randy. And in fact, it looks like we've already gotten it. Yeah, we've gotten those metal extractors, sort of tit for tat here, just trying to make sure that we constantly have a combination of metal and energy that suits our needs. And when you're playing Navy, the needs are mostly metal. Looks like Raghna is having a bit of a technical difficulty. We'll jump ahead here to when this game unpauses, if it's not going to unpause by the time that I finish this sentence. Yep, alright, see you in just a second. Always courteous to pause for your opponents. Way easier in 1v1 games, right? In an 8v8, there's 16 players. It's a lot more difficult to keep everybody satisfied and make sure that everyone's happy with the with the pause. Yeah, a lot of times people will get upset when you pause in those games, and sometimes they'll even unpause it, even though it's a kind of a dick move. Yeah. Anyways, I can understand it. I've been there. I think we've all been there. Had a nice long night. Finally ready to play some Beyond All Reason. You get into a game, you're 5 minutes in, and then suddenly somebody has to go walk their dog for 5 minutes. Yeah, it's a pain. It's a pain. We've all been there. But it's part of the price you pay for being included in such a wonderful community. Is you have to make some sacrifices like that here and there, and what it means is that when you need those sacrifices made on your behalf, hopefully everyone's willing to. I know I sure am. And I hope all of you out there are as well. Patience is a virtue, after all. Submarine is necessary. This is the only way that we're actually going to be able to do any damage to the economy because, well, of course, all of it's underwater. Well, I suppose not all of it, actually. I shouldn't say that. There are metal extractors on land, so it's interesting to see. Randy is going to be using the commander. I wondered if we would see any hovercraft, but it looks like it's just a little too expensive to afford at the moment. Riptides are out now, and they're dangerous. Those Riptides, they can do a lot of damage. They're a very powerful unit. They have that triple gun mounted on their heads. Yeah, they can do a lot of really good work. What I like about the Cortex boats is that they're all essentially the same design. Like you just scale up the design for the different ships. Like you can see the Riptide is the same as the Destroyer. The Destroyer is just a little bigger and one less cannon, but it has those depth charge launchers, so it's a little bit fatter. You go up to the the Destroyer, and it's almost exactly the same as the Riptide, except it just has heavy lasers mounted on the front of it. And then you go up to the Black Hydra, and it's got 4 cannons instead of 3, and it's got 2 of those little lasers on its head. I just find that so adorable. A little metal extractor war going on over here. It looks like we made a little mistake as we pushed a little too far with our construction ship. Raghna, that is, pushed too far with the construction ship and got it destroyed. Submarine got caught there by a harpoon, the offshore torpedo launcher, and that's a great catch. Trying to prevent those torpedo launching submarines from breaking into your facilities is really important, because like I said before, those submarines are really the only way that you can actually do any sort of economic damage, or at least a majority of economic damage on this map, short of, I don't know, T2 torpedo bombers or seaplanes or something of the like. Economies right now, currently Randy is in the lead by 5. However, with Raghna claiming these middle spots over here, I have a feeling that this... Oh, well, I guess we're not going to claim them, actually. We're going to set up wind turbines first. Would like to see those claimed. So yeah, I guess the economy is pretty solidly in Randy's advantage at the moment. Just going for more and more dolphins. I'd love to see a little more sophisticated of a composition here, but honestly, if it ain't broke, why fix it? The Dolphin is a tremendous unit, and it is incredibly powerful. You have to be really, really careful when you're playing against a Armada Navy player, because they are likely to throw out just about 100 Dolphins, and if you don't have the resources or the units to deal with them, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Those rapid assault Gauss cannons can do a lot of damage. It was very close. Rapid fire close plasma turret. Frigates can engage from a longer distance. Sorry, I shouldn't yell frigates in your ear. Don't mean to jump scare anybody. Frigates! Frigates can engage from a longer distance, obviously, but they also are a little bit slower. So if they push a little too far forward, then they get jumped on. If they don't push in at all, then they're not really doing their job. It's a tricky balance for sure. Torpedo launchers here, getting tremendous value. Yeah, they completely destroy these Dolphins. You can see the cost effectiveness against these torpedo launchers is pretty bad in the side for the side of Randy. All of those Dolphins go down, or at least the majority of them go down to 3 torpedo launchers. Static defense for naval play is huge. Super, super powerful. A couple of torpedo launchers can effectively prevent an entire army of the very base units from pushing in. As you just saw, that was a huge amount of Dolphins, and they all got shut down. Now, of course, they are outranged by the destroyers, so the first player to get a destroyer out on the field, we'll call that the honorary replacement for the get a unit out and about on the field award, because that really only applies to those 8v8s and some of those lower skill games. It's not really going to matter for these guys. They're just too good. We've got we're just waiting to see those destroyers, though, because once those are out, they can outrange those offshore torpedo launchers. They can also start launching depth charges at some of those metal extractors under the water there. Riptides do tremendously better against the offshore torpedo launchers, but I still wouldn't say that it's a cost-effective trade. You wouldn't want to go ramming your your ships into any offshore torpedo launchers anytime soon. Looks like Randy will claim the Get a Destroyer Out and About on the Seas award. Modify that slightly for our needs here today. But I think it might be very useful. As you can see, it can shell away from a very long distance. It also has these depth charges, which can shoot downwards towards the submarines, which is going to be very important here. Submarines are on its case, though, and they will take down the destroyer. That's a lot of metal that suddenly has gone down here. And this is what I mean. You know, you can't really rely on a shallow composition. You need that depth of composition here. And so I think the assault frigates mixed with the submarines has proven itself to be a far more capable composition here than the Dolphins and the Corsairs, aka the destroyers. And that being said, the real win here is Raghna getting the opportunity to eat up all of this juicy metal. Once our metal vision renders here, we can see that there is nearly 600 metal just from the wreckage of that destroyer, as well as some other unfortunate ship. Looks like it was a Dolphin. And that metal is crucial. It's completely critical to the success of the teams here. Heavy laser turrets built down here. We're really turtling up and focusing all of our aggression up north. Dolphins are taking a little bit better of a trade here, but the submarines get effectively infinite value against those Dolphins, so it's really nice that we have those in there, because it does allow you to continue applying pressure without actually having to risk anything. So it's very nicely done by Raghna. Raghna taking a very commanding lead here. Suddenly, the position that looked almost virtually even has now swung, I would say quite catastrophically for Randy's sake in the favor of Raghna. We are getting up to numbers in the destroyer count, though. That's dangerous for Raghna. He's going to have to address these destroyers, and if we continue to build up in significant enough number, those destroyers can start to snowball. They'll start to hit critical mass. They'll start to tear down the Riptide menace. Randy's commander was getting a little scared here. It was locked on this island with no escape, having to fend for itself. We do have some destroyers out now for Raghna. Really nice to see. These oppressors, I mean, they're named properly. They can lay down a significant amount of firepower, a dangerous amount of firepower. Their depth charges are not to be underestimated, and those cannons are tremendous. Destroyer versus Riptide, you're not going to need as many destroyers. Obviously, they're a little bit more expensive and a little bit stronger, fire a little bit further, and the AOE is a little bit greater. So you don't need quite as many destroyers to take down these Riptides, but certainly these Riptides are a little bit more maneuverable. And so, just like so often is the case in this game, if you take the proper engagement, you organize your units in a specific way, you're going to eventually be able to capture whatever you need. You're going to be able to get that fight that you're looking for. Depth charges, trying to take out some of these submarines here, and eventually they will. This wreckage was actually body blocking. And we can see the destroyers putting in that good work against these urchins, making sure that static defense doesn't spiral out of control here. Dolphins diving in and out of combat here, just as their name would imply that they should. And the destroyers are going to be forced to retreat off of this front line. This is a massive investment of metal, and this wreckage field is tremendous. 4.1 thousand metal, 5,000 metal, tons and tons of metal all over the place, and it's going to be crucial that somebody claims that. Whoever can claim that is going to have a really nice time. Do we have any alternate strategies, or are we just focused on naval warfare? That's what I'm checking in on here. Looks like for the most part, we are content to just keep up the naval battle, so I guess I will just keep my eyes right where I need them. I do notice there's a destroyer down here that is slowly whittling away at the static defenses, but that might take a while, so for the meantime, we will keep looking up over here. Resurrection sub will eventually go down. That had a capture mark on it. That's interesting. Apparently Randy had tried to capture that at one point or another. Destroyers are taking down a whole lot of these Riptides. Yeah, the Riptide numbers are falling. We have a couple of these oppressors in the back line, though, and they are laying down a hail of fire. Forward naval lab here for Raghna, who's actually stalling metal. That's how much he's got. Love to see a metal storage thrown down here by the commander or a constructor or something like that. Hell, we could probably even go into T2 if we wanted to. It'd be risky to retract from this frontline position while you already have a presumed advantage, because you're giving up that wreckage field. But if you could reclaim a large majority of it, significant amount of it, yeah, I don't see why you shouldn't tech up to T2. We're spending a lot of money all of a sudden. Oh, it was probably this, this naval lab. So rather than go to T2, what we're going to do is just start producing out of 2 labs instead. And I like that idea. I think that's probably another really great way of making sure that you're constantly keeping your metal down and your units up. These army values tell the whole tale. I was thinking about that. I could essentially just post a recording of this little box up here, and it would basically tell you the entire game, more or less. Somehow I think that might be a little less entertaining, though. And the oppressor is out. So now we have the effective way of dealing with these. The herring actually is another way to deal with these torpedo launchers. They can technically attack from outside their range, but it is very, very slow. Dolphins are rallied down here, and they will start to swarm. And when a dolphin swarm attacks, boats die. And as we can see, plenty of boat just died. I am pretty surprised, though, that Raghna hasn't gone for T2. I really think the tech transition could have worked out phenomenally here. At the very least, just to get a T2 constructor. We could have dropped back down to T1 after we get the T2 constructor, but getting that T2 constructor, then upgrading these metal extractors, we're already keeping up with the economy from the resurrection and the reclaim here, but it would have just been a little bit more icing on top of the cake, and I think I would have liked to see it. Anyways, Randy's commander is a little bit exposed here. Randy continually having the commander in kind of a peculiar location, a peculiar series of locations. Although I guess really it just speaks to the amount of aggression that Raghna is up to. Oh, that's why I wanted to put the commander there. We are going for some D-guns. Very difficult to get a D-gun in the water. They, oh, wow, look at that. Enough firepower right there, and Raghna's Riptides. I didn't even expect that, but the Riptides were able to burst down that commander because those D-guns didn't catch it. Wow. That means that Raghna is going to take game number 2. Oh, you're still here, huh? Well, how about a bonus game? Looks like these guys were dissatisfied with that ending. They felt that it was not up to their standards, and so they decided to run it back and put themselves back into action. And man, I'd be remiss if I didn't cover it, because I love watching these two go at it. They're discussing the game right now. At EKY, almost all my games I'm behind in metal, but ahead in damage efficiency. Seems like a good problem. If you can just figure out how to get more metal, you win the game. At least in my head, that's how the math works out here. Randy, going for a much more naval start this time around, was starting in the... Oh, actually, I think we swapped positions here. Yes, I believe we did. So Randy, who was in the southwestern corner last game, is now going to be spawning on the eastern side. However, he did not spawn in the northern corner. He spawned in the southern corner as well. So both players going to be spawning on the southern sides of this map this go around. And Raghna will be going as a Cortex commander, while Randy is also a Cortex commander. So we're going to have a mirror matchup. Very nice. Very good to see. Going to be Cortex versus Cortex. Randy says he did Donnelly Diddly do some practice. Very good to see. I wonder if it's just baked into their muscle memory by this point. This much playing this game and this many. I'm gonna assume years. I don't know either of these players personally, but I have to assume that they've been playing for at least a couple years or a very long time, nonetheless. It's got to be so muscular at this point that you're just reflexively doing things, right? You just, oh yeah, it's about time in the game for me to do this. It's about time for me to do that. I agree with what Raghna is saying here, that Armada is on a timer with Dolphins. Yeah, I completely agree. When the numbers start getting to a point where the Dolphins can be shut down effectively, Armada is in a really rough place, especially if they can't transition anywhere. If you get stuck with low metal, a decent or bad economy, and suddenly your enemy has enough Riptides or enough Oppressors or enough of anything to shut down your Dolphin count, yeah, you can find yourself in a really unfortunate scenario. Gunboats out here for Raghna, but they aren't patrolling across the seas. They're just keeping the home water safe. They're the Coast Guard, if you will. That's what this entire map is. It's just Coast Guard Simulator. I should probably mention that the wind energy on this map is phenomenal. 20 wind speed with a wind risk of 5.7%. That is remarkable. Really, really great wind speed. It's well worth it to go for windmills whenever possible. I can understand why these commanders were favoring the windmills over the tidal generators. Windmills are also only 45 metal, whereas the tidal generators are quite a bit more than that, if I believe correctly. Yeah, 85 versus 45. So it's yeah, it's cheaper. It's significantly cheaper. On an individual level, you think, oh well, it's only what, 40 metal difference. But you're not building one, you're building 100 of them. So really, you think about the percentage cost difference, and it's about a 50% cost difference, more or less. So very much worth it to go for those wind turbines on this map. If the wind speed is down at 5%, it's just bad luck, and there's no one really to blame for that. So you're safe in that sense. Raghna said, "Saw to wake." Ah, must have been talking about this construction ship that went to hide in this corner. The gunboats will catch it and get the kill, and that is a swell little pick because those are expensive to produce. 200 metal, 2,000 energy, and most importantly, they cost a lot of time. So picking those off is no small accomplishment. A torpedo launcher was built over here, and it will be swarmed by the gunboat. They do manage to take it down, which means that they will most likely get the pick here on this construction ship as well, as it sinks to Davy Jones' locker. Did I tell you that I like Navy? I love Navy. I'm not like in real life behind the microphone, outside of the computer, and in the day-to-day. I'm not like a big Navy nuthead. It's not really my specialty or my forte, or even really where my interests lie at all. But specifically and beyond all reason, I just think it's one of the most satisfying, elegant, and rewarding experiences to play Navy. And especially when you get that golden sauce, you hit the waters just right, and everything lines up so that your economy is just humming along. Your units are doing what they're supposed to. You're getting efficient trades. All of it is just working in perfect harmony, and suddenly you're feeling great. There's no greater feeling in the world than blowing up your enemy's entire naval fleet. And realizing that you remembered to include a constructor ship or a res sub, and you can go eat up all that metal that you worked so hard to put on the bottom of the ocean floor. No better feeling, none in the world. Tons of torpedo launchers over here. We are going to be putting in that work to keep this channel safe. Yeah, I'd call that a channel. Very squiggly shore over here. I'm not sure that's exactly how shores are supposed to look, but it's very squiggly, this one. Likewise up here. There's a lot of squiggles on these shores. I'm not sure what to think about these. The first submarine is out. At least I think it's the first submarine. Yeah, it might not have been, actually. Randy's submarine does look like it's a little bit further ahead. They switched colors on me, so now I have to double check. But yes, this is Randy's submarine, and it is moving towards the southern part of the map. There's actually another one on its way. There's a third, but it is headed up north, which I think is going to be quite nice. It will hopefully be able to deny a Raghna submarine, which was headed up north, accompanied by a brother. These guys are so good, they're just mirroring each other, whether they know it or not. They're perfectly mirroring each other's actions. So 2 submarines were sent up north by Raghna, and 2 submarines are just going to be sent up north by Randy, and then 1 submarine was sent down south here by Randy, and so 1 submarine will be sent by Raghna. It's just it's just beautiful to see. Now Randy currently has this entire middle section of the map claimed. However, he doesn't have these islands under his control, and I think that's probably where the metal advantage for Raghna is coming into play at the moment. Oh, actually, I must have just been misreading it. No, it actually looks like they're fairly square on metal at the moment. Submarine battle here. Very, very finicky. You can see this battle ended up being very one-sided. And often that's how things go. No, sorry, I just realized there's a... why are we over here? What happened? I just noticed there's fish. Fishies. Look at that. Look at it flap its little wings. Oh, okay. We've got fishies in the seas on this map. That's nice. I don't think we have fishies in most other maps. Mostly it's just, we have the crabs on Supreme Straits, and sometimes there's other things like there's the ants and stuff. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen fishies. I wonder if you can make them explode like you can with the crabs on Supreme Straits, where if you attack them and you destroy them, there's a nice little red spot. It's pretty brutal. Pretty gruesome. I can't help but notice there is not a naval lab up and running at the moment for Raghna. Unless I am blind and completely missing it. Oh, there it is. Maybe we just moved it. We might have just relocated this facility up north here. Trying to press an advantage by physically maneuvering our units forward here. Uh-oh. Looks like this lab is oriented in such a way that these units are having a little bit of a time trying to get out. Okay, looks like they'll figure it out. Eventually. Eventually. Riptides are out and they are taking down some of these metal extractors on land here. Nice to see. Whatever you can do to shut down some of the economy of the opposed player is always going to be worth it. These guys are all Central Europe time, so recording these at, gosh, what is it, 3:40-ish in the middle of the night. I don't regret it at all, but man, it is difficult. it is a different vibe, you know. I usually record in the mornings or sometimes the afternoons. I try to at the very least. Recording this late at night, it sort of feels like a different game. It feels very chill. It feels very atmospheric. Like I should relax a little bit. I should take the edge off my voice and I should just ask you guys how you're feeling. Welcome back to the Brightworks ASMR. We're gonna be taking calls from you. So call in tonight. Get your voice heard on the local radio. I'm going a bit loony here, in case it's not obvious. I'm sure it's obvious. One metal extractor remains over here, and I'd love to see one of these riptides move over in that direction, but at the current moment, it looks like we're basically just going to try and posture. We want to make sure that Raghna, is trying to make sure that Randy doesn't feel comfortable moving back into the center of this map. Because, well, we're probably hoping that, Raghna's probably hoping that he can claim it here. Gunships are out here for Randy. I completely missed that tech transition, but we do have some seaplane gunships that were produced. Very, very menacing. They can sweep into the back line and do a lot of damage. We are going to see anti-air towers start to be thrown up here. But really, I think these gunships are for dealing with the ships. Yeah, I think so. Just to spite me, we are going to be doing the opposite here. The gunships do start moving forward. Firing those riot cannons, trying to take out some of these anti-air towers, and they'll do a good job. Not good enough, though, as most of them get shot down here. Herrings were also produced. They are the missile carrier ships, or the missile corvette ships. They fire a very light missile, but it does function as an anti-air. Destroyer was put over here, and I think it was just a miscontrol that it was left there. I don't think we meant to sacrifice that. We're going to have to push in there, and I think we're going to have to fight over this reclaim field. I think this is becoming big enough that it's going to be worth it for both of these players to commit a large portion of their resources towards fighting over all this metal lying on the field. We activate our superior metal vision here. We can see that it's 2.6 thou, 738 and 492, and those piles are still growing as more and more units continue to fall here. But these riptides might just be strong enough to go win it. There's still a pretty good amount of them, and they're looking really healthy. The herrings are going to start besieging these torpedo launchers, but it looks like we're just going to jump on them. We can't be bothered to wait as long as it would take for those herrings to whittle these down, so we're just going to push the advantage while we can. Herrings are nice. They can be a really big pain in the side of a lot of these players. You can see it does about 2% damage per hit, so obviously it's going to take quite a lot of hits to take down some of these ships. But you can fire at them from supremely safe distance, just so far away that you really don't have to have any fear of retaliation. It's a great inclusion to this army, and I was talking about the depth of unit composition. Ironically, we're talking about that when it's Navy, but I think that's probably when it's most important. Getting a good composition is going to be, it's just so much more important in Navy because there's not really that many things, right? Like if you think of the land-based options for what you can do, you're sort of like, the world is your oyster, right? There's so many options. You can EMP, you can go for like maneuverability. You can go for flanking bonuses. You can go for all those different things. An extensive list I can't pull to the top of my head right now, but I'm sure you guys understand. On the naval field, things are simplified in many senses because there's no terrain advantage, there's no height delimiter. It's just all a two-dimensional plane that you're fighting across. And so one of the things that just becomes super important is the amount of capacity for things, the tactical options that you have for your army. And in the naval field, it's fairly slim. It's like you have submarine weapons, you have over marine weapons, you have above the water weapons, under the water weapons, and then you have cases like the missile corvette, which fires those long range anti-air missiles. What is my point in saying all that? I just like the compositions. I think they look great, and I think that's I think it also reflects the symmetries that we see in naval compositions in the real world, which are always vastly overcomplicated, and I just think that's hilarious. They're never simple. It's always like, oh well, we gotta have a cargo ship transporting the interdictor ship and then the assault ship. I don't know. I'm certain there's some people down in the comments. Feel free to berate me for my absurd lack of knowledge about the actual organizational trends of the Navy over the years. At least the American Navy is the only one that I would claim to even be remotely familiar with. But from what I understand, it's basically just that there's a lot of different types of ships that all fill varying strategic roles, and more or less you have to make them complement each other. And I think Bard does a great job of capturing that necessity in the game. I've been rambling about this for too long. Why don't we get back to the game? I'm sure I lost 20% of the people who were still interested in this match by going on that tirade. Raghna here does have more and more riptides trying to reinforce the front, but we also see a couple of these destroyers. Those long-range battle cannons are going to be great for laying siege to stationary objects, like, for instance, torpedo launchers. But they also put out a decent amount of AoE damage to soften up big clusters of units. But Pro Randy has not been AFK, also building plenty of riptides, and he does actually get a phenomenal engagement right now, jumping on top of a whole lot of those riptides in red and surrounding them to get that massive surround bonus, meaning that this navy will sweep through Raghna's army, Raghna's navy, I should say. Blue is crushing red currently. Did we go up to a T2? It looks like we... Oh no, we did not. Okay, I get confused with the Cortex ones. They do look fairly similar, at least to my eye. Where's... oh, there's Raghna's commander over here. Gonna be fighting till the bitter end here this time. That was a slightly unsavory end to that other game. It just didn't feel like the reflection of the skills of both the players there. Anyway, we could glance back up to the resource counters here, and we can see that both players are harvesting a similar amount of metal. When harvesting, it looks like they're both around 100 metal per second. When they're not, it looks like it's about 50. Very, very tight game. Very, very even game here. Torpedo gunships are out. I believe that's what these are. Yeah, the Monsoons. Torpedo gunships. They spit out torpedoes one by one as they huck their underwater loogies at some of these ships to try and dissuade them from pushing forward here. A lot of metal once more. 4.4 thousand, 1,800. Yeah. Juicy, juicy metal. And I think we see far too few resurrection submarines at the moment. We do have a lot of these constructor aircraft. We could certainly use those, but as we're witnessing right now, Randy has decided it's time to stop messing around. We're going to be going straight up to that T2 economy. Well, I shouldn't say straight up. I mean, we've been playing this match here for 17 minutes, but it is time to go up to that T2 economy. We're going to start getting some of those T2 ships out. We do have some of these torpedo gun ships retreating for now, but they're just going to be waiting on standby for their time to strike. Raghna has a better position here, making sure to pose in front of the pile of corpses. Like those buffalo hunter that would ride the great rails and slaughter millions and millions of buffalo and then stand and pose next to the mountainous corpses, the mountainous piles of corpses. That's what this reminds me of, as these ships are rolling around or sailing around the high seas here. They they appear to be gas powered or turbine operated or something of that nature. This is really where Raghna is pulling ahead, though. This reclaim, you can see he's up to 145. The slightly grayer section, I'm not sure if you're even going to be able to see that. It's so tiny. But there's a slightly grayer section that indicates how much of the economy is reclaim, and the majority of Raghna's economy was reclaim. However, that is still Raghna's economy, right? it's still producing units and still effective. I think Raghna probably needs to start thinking about going T2. I think that's really the headspace that he should be getting into, because with all of these units sweeping across the map, he's got to either be confident that he can push in here and win the game. Otherwise, he's got to be confident that there's some other reason to jump on top of this. Now, to be fair, there certainly is. It's a lot of tidal generators right here. It's not the majority of the energy production here, but it is 450. It's about a third of the total energy production, more or less, a little less. These are scouting riptides. We're using our assault frigates to scout out what Randy's got going on. Actually, I wonder what Raghna's vision is like. Okay, yeah, it's actually pretty shallow. We don't really see much. I think this is the first time that a battleship has been spotted. That heavy laser turret, as well as that heavy cannon, firing into the riptides here, laying them to waste. Those battleships are devastating. You can see what I mean, right? Oh, this is a great example. Look at that. 3 snozzles, and then you go up to a buccaneer, and it's back to 2, but it's the same exact shape. It's even got the little square doodads in the front. And then you go up one more time, and you're back at the back at this shape with the three snozzles and 1 heavy laser snozzle. I understand that probably what actually happened was they were like, we need to design a ship for this faction. Well, we've already got this one. Let's just make it a little bigger. We'll add different weapons. Well, it'll be fine. But in my headcanon, what happened is that Cortex said, we've already got this platform and it's basically the same. Increase its size by 35% and slap an extra gun on there and you'll be fine. And that's how we got the battleship. Yeah. I don't see why not. That seems like Cortex engineering at its finest. Cortex reminds me a lot of the orcs of Warhammer 40k, just very like, yeah, just, as long as you believe that this thing that you slapped together over the course of the last 5 minutes will work, it'll probably work. That makes sense. The math adds up. Battleships famously do not have any sort of depth charge launchers, so there's nothing it can do, despite being huge and daunting and powerful. There's nothing it can do against these little metal extractors lingering under the waves. We're going to need to see submarines. Buccaneers also have depth charge launchers, so we could use those. Some sort of option here, something. Torpedo gunships have flown all around the map. These things are really fast, by the way. I just realized how fast these are. Oh, they do find a couple of these T2 constructors. They're thinking about it. They're really thinking about... Oh, Randy makes the mistake of stepping into the water. This could actually be critical here. Unless this was intentional. We're intentionally throwing the commander. I don't see why we would. There we go. The commander does cloak eventually, as this airplay has done a huge amount of damage. Uh-oh. Randy's in a lot of trouble here. 22, 13, 6. And down he goes. The gunships win it in the end for Raghna. Very nicely done. Raghna will go on to take our bonus game, our rematch game. Thanks a ton, everyone, for watching. That was a whole lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed this game, and I hope you enjoyed the video. It's been a treat. I think I'm gonna go close my eyes and sleep for a good 10 hours now. I will see you all in the next one. Peace out.